All right, we are now live on air. Today is January 15th, which is a very big day for us here at Backdrop headquarters. Today is the day we release 1.0.0. So for those of you who don't know, Backdrop CMS is a fork of Drupal. We've been working on it for the last year and a half. Hopefully all of our hard work will come to fruition here in a few hours. We're all very excited about
Yay!
it. So that's the big update from the PMC. It's that today we're going to release this thing. We're not sure yet what time. Originally we'd announced midnight, but Nate, after talking to Nate yesterday, it sounds like midnight is, we don't need to wait till midnight. As soon as we're ready, we'll just release it. So we're guessing that'll be sometime between 6 p.m. and midnight California time, but it'll definitely be today and not tomorrow, so at least if you're in California. So today should be the big time. In terms of our upcoming timeline, we are going to be releasing bug fix releases, or what we're calling patch releases, really frequently. So if someone finds a bug today, tomorrow, Saturday, we'll just be able to fix it and come out with a release whenever we need to, which will be good. But the next major release that we're planning on or scheduling will be on May 15th, and that'll be Backdrop 1.1.0. And we have a couple of items scheduled for that release. There's a bunch of other stuff that's not going to make it into this first 1.0.0 release, and we'll put that into 1.1. Nate, do you want to talk a little bit about branch management and how we're going to handle pull requests for all of these future versions of Backdrop?
Yeah, totally. Also, tack on there. Oh, hey, Doug. Hey, Matt. Welcome to the Hangout. I'll also tack on that the roadmap for 1.1 and 1.2 is at backdropcms.org/roadmap. So if you're interested in seeing what target features are for each one of those releases, it's on the site.
Great.
Let's see. So branch management. So what we're planning on doing, we're going to be using the same policy as Symfony and probably a lot of other projects. That what we're going to be doing is all bug fixes go into the current release of the software. So now that we have 1.0.0, all bug fixes will go into the 1.0.x branch. But all like new features and functionality will continue to go into the 1.x branch. And then we'll continuously merge the 1.0.x branch into 1.x. So basically, bug fixes go into the current release, and then the current release continues to get merged into the future release all the time. So that's the idea. We're not actually sure when we're going to be making the branches yet, because probably our primary focus after release is just going to be on bug fixing things. So we might not even make the new branch today. We might just continue with the 1.x branch for a week or two before we even start worrying about the 1.1 release.
Okay, that sounds good. We also wanted to remind people of our upcoming release schedule. So we're going to be releasing 1.1 on May 15th, 1.2 on September 15th, and 1.3 will be January 15th next year. And when we get to January 15th next year, we'll also reevaluate our release schedule. We decided for 2015 to do one release every 4 months, but that might change depending on how much activity we get. We could either adjust it down to 1.3 months, or we'll consider talking about when we want to do a 2.0 release as well, depending on how much stuff we have in the backlog that we want to get out in the next version of Backdrop. So we will plan on this schedule for a year, and we'll reevaluate this time next year and see if we can set some more realistic goals for the next future. Okay, so in terms of what we're working on today, we have a very short list of things that are remaining for 1.0.0. We have a bunch of security issues that have all been resolved in the last few weeks, and I think Nate wants to do a double check just to look at all of those security issues that existed for Drupal, make sure that we have legitimate solutions to all those problems in Backdrop, and that we're not accidentally overlooking one of those issues. We're going to do that today before we release. And then we have one set of Drupal 7 cross-port issues. We want to make sure the Backdrop is at least up to date with all of the stuff that's going on in Drupal 7. I have 12 issues, or I think there's only 10 of them, remaining that I'm working on in a branch on my computer. And we have 2 metas, I'm not sure, Nate, if those were merged this morning, that already have pull requests and are ready to go. And that's kind of our last thing in terms of keeping up with Drupal. But those issues are blocking a file rearrangement issue that we didn't want to put in until we got all of these last fixes in from 777. So we'll see. I'm going to try and work on that really hard today if we can get those done today. One of them I think is more important than the other one. There's one that's just, put all the JavaScript files in JavaScript folders. It's kind of a bigger thing. And the other one's just kind of a little themer experience issue about putting all of the theme functions in files where they're easy to find. So theme.inc files in each module. And those are, if we don't get them done today, it's not the end of the world, but we wouldn't be able to move them until 2.0. So that's why I'd like to move it now. We can't do that in a bug fix or patch release or minor release. Other things that we're working on. Sorry, I lost the agenda here. We've got a tag on GitHub for the 1.0.0 milestone. And there's, I think, only 3 issues left in that. Oh, no, there's another. We got another bug this morning related to the installer. I don't know if you're working on that, Nate, or if we have someone else. But I think that's...
Yeah, so one other thing that we're trying to fix, it's kind of funny. We had a bunch of people installing Backdrop recently, which was awesome, but a lot of them found out that they couldn't actually install Backdrop because the database settings asked for the settings twice, which I thought was a weird issue because like our installer is pretty much Drupal 7's installer, but then it was confirmed that you can't install Drupal 7 on PHP 5.5 either. So, surprise. But the nice thing is that there was a patch in the Drupal 7 issue queue. Turns out it's a critical, which isn't surprising. That, I mean, if you can't install Drupal or Backdrop on PHP 5.5, that's no good. So it kind of also sparked the idea that maybe we should go through the list of outstanding criticals for Drupal 7 that haven't been merged. We're totally up to date with Drupal 7 as Drupal 8 or as Drupal 7's releases are. Like, we've been cross-porting everything as they come in, but it looks like maybe we should go through the critical list for Drupal 7 itself and start merging things that haven't been merged into the Drupal 7 releases yet. But I think in the short term, that's the only one that's really of importance, or that I know of. If people can't install, that's no good. But we did do a whole bunch of installer fixes yesterday that make it so that installation is way more robust. We checked it on all kinds of things: linodes, shared hosts, MAMPs, local hosts, bitnamis. So things are a lot more robust than they were before. I see we got Matt Cheney, but I'm not sure if he's. He looks like he's maybe on a second phone call at the same time. But working on Pantheon is going really well too, and how close are we on the demo button on the homepage, Jen? That's almost.
We have the demo button on the homepage, and it is hooked up to the Pantheon installer. I hooked it up yesterday. I think we just have that one issue that we fixed yesterday with the installer, and I pushed that patched version up to Pantheon and it worked just fine. So I think we just need to get that into the Pantheon Backdrop repo, and we should be good to go.
Super. Cool. So we'll probably have both buttons working by the end of the day today. That is the download button and the demo button. The demo button will spin up a Pantheon instance. So it's pretty exciting. That's all I got. What's next?
Okay, so let's see. We have items for 1.1. So in terms of what we're working on today, it's basically just taking care of these last few issues for 1.0, which is security issues, making sure that our installer is working as intended. If we have someone that wants to do a Drupal 7 critical review and create a meta of those for us, that would be good as well. I'm not sure how many of those we can get fixed today. I know we're planning on doing one, but we have someone who has some time, that might be a good place to start on that. And then doing the file rearranging thing is on my plate to see if we can get that in today too. Then beyond that, we're starting to look a little bit further forward into the future. gone through and organized all of our issues on GitHub and took the stuff that wasn't going to get done in 1.0 and pushed it to the 1.1 milestone. So there's a link on the agenda to the 1.1 milestone tag, or if you're on the GitHub issue queue, you can look for that yourself. There's also a whole bunch of stuff that hasn't been tagged with a milestone. If you want to work on it, that's fine. We'll just put it in whenever that next release comes out. So if you're working on user experience improvements, or if you're working on I don't know, like rearranging items in the admin menu. Some of these things aren't necessarily slated for a milestone, but that doesn't mean that they won't get done for that version. But things that we do think are really important and we want to schedule for 1.1 do have that milestone on them. And of those, we've got a couple of biggies. We want to put in a rich text editor, which is something that is near and dear to Nate's heart. We haven't gotten done in 1.0. We want to put in path auto modules so that people can have automatic aliases for their content, and that, of course, depends on token. And I know that in the last 2 weeks or so, Enzo started on a port of token module, so we can definitely start from that. We'll take a look at it and see if we want to make any changes to the way that module worked in Contrib in order to put it into core, or if we can just put it in as is. And same thing with path auto. If we want to make any changes to the way, if you think it should work differently as a core module than as Contrib, we can look at that as well. But those are 3 big things for 1.1. There, of course, will be a lot of little things we want to do in 1.1 too, so you know, we'll just keep moving forward on those and see how far we get. If any of those 3 big things don't look like they're going to be done in time, we'll push them to 1.2. So we're still going to release 1.1 on May 15th, regardless of what actually gets into it or not. Other things we've got going on, there are a ton of issues that are user experience improvements. We've been talking about building a new user interface for the layout system. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's awaiting design. We want to do a new admin theme. We've been working on a style guide. All of this stuff isn't going to get in by today. But we do hope to have it in by the next major version. So we're not, or next minor version. So we're not trying to cram it all in today. We feel like we have enough time between now and May to get them in. So if you're focused on design or user experience or you're a front ender, we have plenty of tasks for you. We just don't have time to get them all in by the end of the day today. And then same thing for developer experience. We've been trying to get as many of our developer experience issues in before 1.1 as possible because those often affect APIs. But if you find something silly, like you want to add a wrapper around a function that was changed in Drupal and Backdrop, we can add that at any time also. So if it's something that will just improve the process of porting a module from Drupal to Backdrop, we will have the ability to get some of those in. So we've got tags for issues for UX for user experience and for DX for developer experience in the issue queue, and if those things are important to you, you can definitely work on those things going forward as well. So other stuff we've got going on, other than Backdrop, the project itself, we have other things like the update server, that what we did in order to get the 1.0 release out was we had the update server just return a not implemented header, and Backdrop the software listens for that when it checks to see if you're up to date, and it'll just return a message saying that's not implemented. Obviously, once we have a real Backdrop, we're going to need to start working on a real update server so that you can tell if your site is up to date or not. So if we have anyone who's really passionate about that and wants to work on that, it's definitely a good task. Standalone, we need to get some information there. We've got some great ideas about the kind of things that we want to check for each Backdrop site. So we don't just want to know, are you running Backdrop and what version is it? But we'd also like to know what core modules you're using, so that in the future, if we ever get to this point where we need to remove modules from core, we'll actually have some valuable statistics on who's using them, at least of the information we're tracking. And we've got some other things in there too, like I don't know if it's possible for us to tell if we're using the Drupal backwards compatibility layer, but that would also be super useful so that when it comes time to remove that, we'll know how many sites are still using it or how many sites have turned it off. So stuff like that would be useful too. We've got a meta issue on that. If you want to work on that, we can start on that whenever. We also have been doing a lot of work on our API site. It currently pulls from our Drupal Backdrop code base, which is great. We've got a list of change records up there, so if you're porting modules, you can consult that for what's different between Drupal 7 and Backdrop. We've started on a documentation section over there, so that's going to be specifically developer documentation. It's going to be how to write a module, how to write a theme, things like that. And we're working on that. We know the theme over there is a little messy for now in terms of the documentation pages. But we do have a new front-end theme for our primary website that we're going to work on moving over to the API site. So also if you're a front-ender and you want to just work on a theme, that's also a great task. We can hand off there as well. And then we have, we're going to need a official GitHub service. So as people start porting their modules and themes from Drupal to Backdrop and put them on GitHub, we want them to be able to check a box under the settings for that project and say, this is a Backdrop extension. And then the Backdrop primary website will be able to go to GitHub and scan all of the modules that are for Backdrop or all of the themes or all of the layouts and list them on our primary website so people have a way to search for them. So before we can have a modules or themes page on Backdrop itself, we need to have a way for the site to scan GitHub to find those things. So if we have anyone who has experience working on GitHub or wants to learn how to do a GitHub service, that's something we could really use. And if we do have anyone who's the GitHub ninja, there's also a bunch of other kind of wish list items we have for managing our issue queues on GitHub to automate a couple of the transitions from things like needs review to needs work when a Travis test fails and stuff like that that we would love to have going on behind the scenes. So if we have anyone who wants to work on that, there's a bunch of fun GitHub-related tasks there as well. And then we also have on the primary website itself, once we have a list of modules and themes we can pull from GitHub, we need to design and build modules, themes, and layouts pages on the primary website, as well as we want to set up a showcase so anyone who builds a new site in Backdrop can show it off. We want to set up a whole bunch of other stuff like jobs pages and services pages, but obviously we need to have jobs and services before we send those out. So we've got good long-term goals, but we aren't actually working on those just yet. So because today is the big release of Backdrop 1.0, we also want to start kind of making a bunch of noise about it, and there's been a bunch of noise on Twitter already. We've got a podcast that should be coming out sometime soon. Nate, I don't know if you have any more information on that.
I haven't actually checked, but yeah, we did an interview a couple weeks ago, so it should be ready, but I'm not really sure if that's going to be released today or not. It's a Lullabot podcast.
Okay.
So I'll check with the team.
Okay. And then we also have, we're going to send a newsletter out to anyone who's on our mailing list so they know that it's ready. I'm going to write an article, but it won't be out until May or something in Drupal Watchdog. But I think the biggest thing that'll help us out starting today and tomorrow is just for everyone to tell their friends. We're going to try and just make sure that everyone knows that this is real. You know, we've been working on it for a year and a half, and a bunch of people were not believers that we were going to get it done, and here we are. So it'd be good to say, hey, go try it. Let us know what you think. It's here. So I think that's the...
I also want to add for the record that it was absolutely complete coincidence, and we had no idea that January 15th was also Drupal's birthday. That was just totally accidental. Our release was supposed to be December 22nd, but then we're like, releasing something before Christmas is dumb. And I was like, January 15th, 2015, that sounds like an awesome date. Let's do that date. And then, lo and behold, it's Drupal's birthday today. So Drupal is 14 years old today. Backdrop is about to become zero. But but anyway, just pretty funny, just the way things work.
Yeah, we found out about that last night. It was like, wait, the 14th or the 15th? No, the 15th. Like, huh, whoops. But I don't know. Backdrop seems to be full of happy coincidences, so there you have it. All right. Well, that's all I have that's super urgent. We've got a couple of events coming up where you can come and talk to us about Backdrop. We have Sand Camp, which I think is in February this year, and we have Mid Camp, which is in March. And Nate and I will probably be at both of those. I know I'll definitely be at both of those. So we're going to try and see if we can organize the sprinting if anyone wants to work on Backdrop. But that's kind of still up in the air. We don't know yet. But there's a bunch of people watching today, which is great because it's a huge day. There's also a bunch of people in the chat. I guess we should open it up for a couple minutes and see if there are any questions or comments anyone wants to make today. Nice and quiet.
Oh, well, so I may have missed this at the beginning because I was a bit late, but what is there like a time of day you're releasing this? Because I want to write a blog post for the Pantheon stuff.
So we haven't decided on a time of day. Originally, we'd said it would be around midnight, but we don't think we're going to need all day until midnight to do it. So we are thinking sometime between 6 p.m. and midnight, and so that we'll just kind of tie up whatever loose ends we need to tie up before then, and then release when it's ready.
Yeah,
Okay.
6 p.m. and midnight Pacific for everybody else that's out there.
Okay, yeah, I'll write a blog post then tomorrow morning.
Okay.
In that case. Yeah, and then there's just that one issue with the core redirect. I don't know that is blocking this blocks the Pantheon's stuff. I don't know if that's going to be resolved for the 1.0.
So this, I think yesterday, I had noticed after I installed on Pantheon, everything worked just fine, except for that if you go to the root of your site, it doesn't automatically redirect you to /core/install.php.
Yes.
And we were thinking about that yesterday. For some reason, when the variables come in through the settings array, instead of being entered in the settings.php file, that happens. If they're entered in settings.php file, it doesn't. I don't know why. I don't know, Nate, if we want to do more testing on that today.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to get it worked out.
Okay.
So let's see, Matt. Let's connect after the Hangout and try to figure it out. Because I definitely want. I mean, I want this to install as smoothly as possible on as many platforms as possible.
Especially if we have the demo button on the website, we want it to demo nicely.
Exactly. Yeah, Matt. We were saying that we're gonna make the demo button actually work. The goal is today.
It actually does work.
Oh, it does work. Yeah. Yeah. If I could suggest, I actually I wouldn't say demo necessarily. I don't know. Like, we've gone back and forth on this, but like you can like try it on Pantheon, and then you can actually develop a site on it. Like it's not typically a demo mode kind of operation. And I don't know if that's how you feel about that. Like, if you could just like try on Pantheon, and like have it be a link for that, and then people could try it, and then they could actually spin up sites. I'd leave it to you on the language, but yeah, the button works right now. No problem. Yeah,
that's interesting. Well, I'll run some language ideas by you later and see if we can definitely change that button.
Yeah. The other thing is the backdropcms.org site is vulnerable to Poodle SSL attacks. I don't think it's a launch issue, but I noticed that this morning because Chrome's giving it a sort of like mixed SSL warning, so I ran an SSL scan on it.
Well, I'm glad that we announced that on a live broadcast.
I mean, you don't log into this site, so I don't. I mean, there's not whatever. But you could totally move it to Pantheon if you wanted the domain, and that would that would solve that issue.
Okay, well, that's also a quick fix if we can get on there. So, all right.
Otherwise, yeah, it's awesome. I mean, good luck with everything, of course.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, are there any comments from anyone else? I think those are great suggestions. We will try and work on that installer redirect problem. We will update the language in the button, and we'll fix the SSL problem on our own website.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining in, and thanks everybody for watching. It's going to be a big day.